Hold on, it takes a second to live stream. And okay, everybody's ready. And now you're live streaming and recording.
Okay, great. So we'll get started. Good evening, everyone. As you know, I'm Dale Black Pennington, and I'm the chair of the Niskayuna Task Force on Racial Equity and Justice. And I welcome everyone this evening for our monthly meeting. It's May 12th, 2021 at 6 p.m. And so we'll get started. This is a monumental meeting because it's our first meeting after the Derek Chauvin verdict. Monumentally, many statements were made about that verdict. And it's been pretty much heralded as a first step in justice, racial equity and justice in the United States, considering what preempted it and what got it to the place that it arrived at. And generally commemorative of that verdict has been the monumental statement of the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison, who noted that although we've seen some justice, we still have a very long way to go. So I'm going to use that, his quote, as a theme for our meeting today, because I think we've all come together to move our town towards racial justice and equity. And as such, I just want everyone to contemplate the idea we have a long way to go, but we're on that journey. With those words, I will move forward with my call to order, and I'll proceed with roll call. So I'll call out your names and I'll just ask that the members indicate whether they're here. Arinka Abad, I believe Arinka just recently indicated by email that she was not going to appear. So we'll mark that as an excused absence. David Amadeo.
Present.
Angela Antikowski.
Present.
Kataki Badhankar.
Present.
Sandra Griffin.
Present.
Dr. Hayward Horton.
Present.
Pruti Irani.
Present.
John Lemeling.
Present.
Jillian Margolis.
Present.
Dr. Jamie Lynn Puccioni. Okay, I see Jamie on the screen, but I didn't hear present. Okay, thank you. Elizabeth Paul.
Present.
Aya Osman.
Present.
Larry Ritter. I'll note that I haven't received the communication, so at this point, Mr. Ritter will be marked absent. And so at this point, I believe we have a quorum. I will indicate also that I am present for purposes of the roll call. Let's move on then to the approval of the discussion of the minutes from April 14th, 2021. Oh, 1 second. Aya, did I call your name? Aya Osman?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's move on then to the approval of before we do so, I'd just like to publicly welcome you, Aya, to the task force. This is your first meeting with us, and we all look forward to working with you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm really happy to be on board.
Welcome, Aya.
Yes, welcome.
So at this point, then I'll move on to the approval of the April 14th, 2021 minutes The minutes were attached to the notification of the hearing. I'm sorry, of the meeting. I'm still in work mode. I apologize. And so at this point, are there any comments, questions? Is there any thing that anyone wants to ask about the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Angela. And Liz, are you seconding that motion?
Yes.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It appears
Aye.
to be unanimous. So the minutes have been approved for the last meeting. Jamie and Ari are scheduled to give us an update about the intern process program. So Jamie, I'll turn that over to you. I'll note that Ari is absent tonight.
I'm getting some feedback. Is anyone else getting that?
Yes, there seems to be some sort of problem with Jamie's sound.
Maybe log out and log back in. Give it a whirl anyway.
Yeah, maybe. So Jamie, what we'll do is we're gonna, looks like she's logged out. Let's give her a few minutes. We're still getting the feedback.
Is your cell phone near your computer? You may want to consider, and I'm not sure.
It's still the same.
There's still
Yeah, you
feedback.
sound like you're underwater or something.
Okay, Jamie, I may,
Sorry, Jamie, did you want to dial in using your phone?
that's a good suggestion. Would you like to dial in? Maybe she can't hear us. I'm sending her a text. And it looks like she stepped back. All right, she's disconnected.
Maybe she's talking to Kay, Dale, on the phone.
She said she's going to call in.
Okay. Thanks, David. I didn't see that.
Nope, no problem. You're welcome.
Paul, I'll take this opportunity to say hello and welcome you. We didn't acknowledge your presence a few minutes ago, so I'd like to do so now.
Thank you. You know earlier, I hope you got that, my proposed ad for new membership.
Yes, I did, and I'm going to address it as an additional topic before the meeting closes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. Hi, Jamie, can you hear us?
She's showing up as mute on my screen.
Yes.
I can see her phone number, but
So I think she needs to dial *6 to unmute on a phone. *6.
Thank you. I didn't know how to unmute.
Okay, great. Are you ready to
Okay.
proceed?
Sure. The intern program, the application deadline is May 15th. So that's in 3 days. And we will then proceed with reviewing applications and make recommendations to the leadership committee for discussion and then approval. And it is our intention to notify selected interns before the start date of June 15th.
Excellent. Have we received a lot of applications or at this
I
time?
have not checked.
Okay, great. Sounds fantastic. Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much, Jamie. Sounds like you guys are doing a great job, and I'm happy we're moving forward with interns.
Great. Does anyone know how to mute it? Oh, we see one in the application mailbox. Thank you, Kay.
Same thing. *6 will mute you.
Thank you.
We've had a proposal, we being the leadership group, received a proposal for the formation of an additional work group. The work group is the annual data review work group. And at this point, I believe it's comprised of Dr. Jamie Lynn Puccioni, Dr. Angela Antikowski, and Kay Kataki Bodhanker. And so they would like to do a presentation, and they are our next item on the agenda, discussing this work group and how they expect to have it work. So I think, Angela, I was looking forward to you spearheading this presentation.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me try to share my screen. Is everyone able to see the screen?
Yes.
Great. All right. Okay. So good evening, everyone, and welcome, Aya, to the task force. So on behalf of Kay, Jamie, and myself, we're presenting a proposal for an annual outcome committee work group. The purpose of which is to provide an annual review of our task force activities in accord with the task force resolution, which essentially stipulates that certainly we assess and analyze our town programs, that we develop a framework for an equitable approach, but as the purpose of this work group establishes equity targets and measures as part of an equity action plan to track our progress on key measures. And so in terms of understanding the purpose of the proposed work group, it is to provide a ready mechanism for assessing the annual outcomes of our work groups so that we can provide a comprehensive data analytic repository for work groups to report to the town on equity metrics. So for example, if the community service work group, for example, has objectives that include increasing access to town programming and developing policies for programming, the annual outcomes committee's role would be to provide, if you will, a sort of state of the union or state of the town on an annual basis with respect to accomplishment of those objectives, and provide a mechanism to have ready access to this. So meaning that on an annual basis, this committee's charge will be to provide a framework for the progress of the task force. So in terms of activities, it would include reviewing town policies and procedures and outcomes, to develop a framework and to define a plan to address and resolve areas of racial disparity. Additional activities include identifying equity targets and measures as part of an overall equity action plan, to utilize quantitative and when qualitative data is available to collate all of that data and develop annual recommendations, and to develop annual or triannual, depending on the cadence that makes sense, a community diversity engagement survey of town residents, town officials, other paid town employees and police to identify perceptions of inclusion and engagement. And I just provided, we provided some examples here of annual reviews. And annual reviews of equity agendas are common and they're a necessary component of equity work. So this work group, for example, would not necessarily be atypical, right? In fact, it's an important part of quality and internal review. And it really ensures that we're staying on task with respect to the resolution mandates. And annual outcome committee such as this provides a clear basis for the need to establish equity targets and measures as part of an equity action plan and to track progress on key measures. So what would our next steps be, assuming approval of this group? Well, we would further develop our work group infrastructure. As of now, it's comprised of Kay, myself, and Jamie. However, current task force members with skills in organizational strategic planning and analysis are absolutely encouraged to participate. We would also go on to identify racial equity targets for annual review. So what this means is understanding the demographic composition of our town through quantitative means, but then also understanding the demographic composition of town employees, volunteers, and the like. Our next steps would also include developing a cadence for work group meetings, and if it makes sense, working with current work groups to measure objectives for annual review and reporting. That concludes the proposal.
Thank you, Angela. Are there any comments? Kay and Jamie, do you wish to add anything to the presentation at this point? Okay, I see that Angela, I'm sorry, I see that Sandra has her hand up. Sandra?
So how would that be different from the data and best practices? Or is that something that would be in coordination with that?
Hi, Sandra. That's a great question. So certainly this is more of an internal review. So for example, and I certainly don't want to speak for data and best practices. They can certainly speak on that. However, for the most part, when we consider, data and best practices are focused more on community facing and also in ensuring that the community's voice is integrated into our task force activities. This work group though is more, you can consider it as an internal quality assurance mechanism, right? So ensuring that each work group's objectives are met and that then we can report on an annual basis on those activities. Is that a little bit more clear?
Yes, it's like our own little internal audit.
Right. Yes, right.
This is Preeti. Can I speak? Like Sandra said, I did see quite a bit of overlap, but I also see some differences. And I hope you don't mind the overlap because I think it helps to have overlap. We're just addressing it from different perspectives, and that only strengthens and makes the process more robust. because we will also in the data and best practices work group also look at equity measures. But like I said, we are starting from the community, the ground up rather than top down. So that's why the process will begin after the third meeting. So the demographics and the equity outcomes, that part, there will be some overlap, which is all right. Hopefully, it'll strengthen the process. If you come from that process with the same kind of findings and read with the data work group we do, that's great. Where there may be some differences is looking to see how the town operates. We won't get there sooner because it will take some time to reach consensus on what the equity measures and outcomes would be. What is it? What do we value in our town? Getting to that will take some discussion and consensus. But like I said, we'll start really outlining what we need, why, how it aligns with the values of the town, of members, of the task force members, starting from the third meeting. So there'd be considerable overlap in that aspect.
Yes, thank you for that
Doc,
perspective,
Doc
Preeti.
had his hands raised.
Thank you. Angela, could you send to us links to those references that you made in the in your PowerPoint? I'm making a specific reference to the those annual review reports as well as the manual.
Sure,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
no problem.
Liz?
Hi. Is this is part of an internal audit process, like for the work groups? We submit our report to you, or then you review that and then you submit to the leadership. How is this works? That's what it is.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Liz. I think that once we get approval, I think we can have more intentional conversations, and that would certainly be discussions with let's say, each chair of the work group, because we want to make sure, again, that that the work is done in collaboration with each work group. And so, right, so I suppose it makes sense maybe to see or to have each work group consider what their individual objectives are, and then identifying how they know that they've met those objectives. And then in an annual review, whatever makes sense for the work group, they can submit what ensures that they've met those metrics. And then as a task force, we would work with each other to then submit that as an annual review, as I said, a sort of state of the town, if you will.
Any other questions or comments?
One second,
Liz?
Sorry. Can you share that your PowerPoint with us to the Google Drive so we can all read it over?
Yeah, absolutely, Liz.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Angela, I just have one question. Your annual review, would that be a part of comprising our annual report to the town? Or would that be something internally that you work with the leader, that you present, and then the leadership group drafts or submits a separate annual review for the town?
The latter.
Okay, so, but would you be working in conjunction with the leadership in terms of going over and reviewing, you know, equity goals for each year?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I was just going to add that, you know, once we have approval on this process, there's, you know, the next step is really crystallizing the approach for the next next few months as this work group starts working. So some of those details will get, finalized or, crystallized in coming weeks.
May I suggest that we do questions and answers by email over the next month, and then be prepared to vote on finalizing this group as a work group at the next meeting. Would that be acceptable to everyone? Okay, so I don't hear anyone objecting to it. Angela, yes. It says you
Yep.
raised your hand.
Yep, I was just raising my hand in affirmation.
Okay. Okay, and Sandra likewise? Okay, then great. Thank you, everyone. So we will continue our discussion by email over the next month, and then prior to the next meeting, or at the next meeting, we'll be ready to vote on finalizing this work group. I thank you very much, Angela and Kay and Jamie. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
If I might add, I actually think it's a wonderful idea.
Thank you, Doc. So at this time, I'll turn the tables over to Dr. Jamie Lynn Puccioni for a work group update presentation. Jamie?
Dale, today I'm filling in for Jamie because she's having audio issues.
Okay.
So if it's okay with the task force, I will proceed with asking for working group updates.
Excellent.
Okay. Let's start with the public safety working group. John, do you have an update for us?
I do. Thank you, Kay. So as you all know, the public safety working group has completed our work with the town's police reform and reinvention collaborative project. It was a very exciting project for us to be helping them with. And the final report was sent to New York State by the town as required by Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 203. So that is a major accomplishment, I think, for the town as well as for our group. Now that that report is done, I think it's a good time to open the public safety working group up to other people who may be interested in joining us. We do have a room. We've got, I think, 3 members of our group that are going to be leaving the task force. And so we do have room for some new folks. If you're interested, please let me know. As I mentioned, the report that we've completed and has been sent up to the state is a good start. So there's obviously plenty of very important and very impactful work that we need to do. With that, I also think this may be a good time for me to step down as co-chair of the working group, and I'd like to make room for new leadership who can help work with the team and lead the public safety working group going forward. I'm happy to help them, work with them. I'm also happy to remain the treasurer of the task force if you all reappoint me in that position, but I would like to back off and step down as the co-chair of the public safety group and let someone else lead. Keep in mind that the resolution that the town passed includes not only 66 recommendations from the collaborative report, which we were a part of, but it also includes another 76 recommendations from the CNA equity audit. And so, as the Task Force on Racial Equity and Justice, we have a responsibility to monitor and work with the town going forward to make sure that these recommendations are actually implemented, which is obviously very, very important. So that's kind of my update. With that, I do have a question, if I can. I don't know. Can I ask Paul a question about the town process?
Please do. Please do, John.
Okay. Yeah. So, Paul, as you know, according to the resolution that was passed by the town is going to form a police reform reinvention implementation task force. It's going to have 5 community members, and obviously it's a very, very important group of people to make sure that these recommendations turn into reality and that real change happens. So I wonder if we could ask from the town, what's the plan or what's the schedule for this implementation task force? For example, how does the town plan to reach out to the community for participation? How will the appointments be selected? I think you mentioned you had made some recommendations to the town. I think we had also sent in some recommendations. So we just want to make sure that we're ready to work with this group, and we'd love to hear an update from the town on what they feel like the status is and the schedule of this group's work going forward.
So we're not at the point yet where I'm prepared to answer any of those questions. There was recently an email circulated about forming a group to determine how to carry out all of the things you just talked about. And of course, I'm a member of that as the town attorney, but we're in the process of trying to schedule that. So I'm sure by the next meeting, I'll have all answers to all those questions, because we need to schedule that and then have at least 2 or 3 meetings to determine the direction that the committee's going to take. Just the formation of it, we've got to, as you select and include members of the public. And I think timing wise, all that whole process to get up to speed is going to take 2 or 3 months. But I'll have a better answer for the task force at the next meeting, and I'll specifically, if we can put that on the agenda, I'll be prepared to answer questions with the information that you're.
That's great. Thank you, Paul. And believe me, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I didn't expect you to have the answer today, but if you could help us with that next meeting, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. John, now, will the task force have an opportunity to see the report that your working group sent to the town? Or have you already submitted that? And secondly, in terms of protocol, wouldn't it be appropriate to present it to the task force first prior to submitting it to the town?
Yeah, so I didn't mean to confuse the issue. As members of the task force on racial equity, we were invited to participate in the town's process of writing this report. So we didn't write anything. We wrote things as members of groups that were writing a report. Sorry about the dog. So it was a very collaborative effort. It was led by Brian Backus. So a report was generated by a bunch of people. We were, I think, 2 of those people. That report has been finalized and sent to the state, New York State. I think the deadline was April 1st. So that thing went out from the town to the state at the end of March.
So will the task force have access to this report?
I absolutely, and I thought I sent it out, but I could certainly make a note and send it out again if you're interested. It's about 100.
You may have, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, that's okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'll make sure it's posted on our internal drive, and then I'll send the link. It's a very large document. It's over 100 pages, but I will.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure I did before, Doc, but I'll send it again.
Okay, I guess I got confused because since you presented this in the context of the public safety work group, it gave the impression that the public safety work group developed a report and then submitted it to the town. And so I understand now.
Yeah, Doc and John, I believe at some point the collaborative report was posted on the town website. Then they consolidated the collaborative report and the consultant's report into a report, which may still be posted. I haven't seen it recently. but some form of the report, if not all three, are on the town website.
Any further questions for John or comments on the public safety group before we move? Liz?
John, because I'm in with him in the committee too, because he sent a lot of PDF forms to our work group to review. I thought that he shared with all the task force, so I never questioned because he's very efficient to doing his work. So if he misses, we apologize. So it's there.
Thanks, Liz. Okay, thank you, John. Moving on, the next on our list is the Community Services Work Group. David, would you be providing an update? David, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you, Kay. So our work group has received some documentation from the town department at this point, the Community Services Department. And our next step is to analyze that information. But due to some personal reasons among our group members, we're not able to meet this past month. So there's no other update other than that we have received some documentation from the town Community Services Office, but we now need to analyze that data. We're not able to meet yet this past month. No other update than that. Thank you, though.
Thank you, David. Any questions or comments? Okay. Let's move to the data.
Does Sandra have a question there?
Sorry, Sandra, go ahead.
Just quick, David, do you have a specific day or evening that your group meets?
Not one regularly scheduled day or date, Sandra, no.
Okay. And if you wanted to get involved, just make contact with one of you in the group.
Yes, with Jillian or Liz or myself. Certainly Kay and Angela are also part of this, and John's there too. So, I mean, there's a lot of members in the group. Jillian and Liz are co-chairing, and I'm trying to carry as much weight as I can as well. But certainly, yeah, just reach out to one of us and we'll let you know. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Okay, let's move to data and best practices. Preeti, do you have an update?
Yes. We had the first public task force collaborative meeting on April 20th. There were 6 members of the community and 2 of us from the task force, plus Lisa Stevens, who kind of helped with the technical and much more with the meeting. It was, we used a Google Jamboard, which is kind of a brainstorming interactive board. And most of the people could participate. One person had technical issues with the iPad, which I hope will get resolved. And I think if people don't have a Gmail account, it's a little more difficult, but for the most part, it was a very talented and gifted group of Niskayuna residents. We mostly discussed roles. We started discussing, it's not complete. And we started talking about interdependencies, about what influences equity. And that will be the focus of the next meeting, really kind of mapping out the interdependencies and looking for feedback loops and mental models. So the next meeting is Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, and it'll be monthly. And we have 1 new member so far. But other than that, it was, like I said, it was a good meeting. People were respectful, and I think we all learned from each other. That's it.
Thanks, Preeti. Any questions or comments for the data and best practices group? Okay, I see no hands. Thank you, Preeti. That concludes our updates on the work groups.
I have one more thing that we're working on, which is that self-assessment tool. Remember? Okay, and Liz was going to give an update.
Okay. We reviewed the self-assessment tool and felt it was strong in communications and had components of collaboration, but was weaker in alignment, purpose, data, and practices. There are other self-assessment tools we can consider for the task force and work groups. We would like to complete a rapid literature review and share our findings at the next meeting. If anyone would like to join us with Liz, Ari, and Preeti, you are welcome to join our group.
Hey Liz, is this group, are you part of the data and best practices group? Or is this a different group? I want to make sure I get the notes right.
Well, to answer that, I'll answer that for Liz. So all three of us happen to be on the data and best practices work group, but we didn't bring it to the collaborative group because they're a new group and I just don't want to push so much on their plate that they get overwhelmed. But so we'll see. Right now, it's a very new group. They're just learning, finding their feet. So right now, it's just Ari, Liz, and I. And like I said, it's a best practice to do a self-assessment, so you could consider it, but it's really not part of the public, not yet. Eventually, it'll be. I think the group we have is so new that you just don't want to put too much on their plate. So right now it's loose. It's not like a separate work group. I mean, three of us are part of that work group, but it's one of those loose things. So we could be part of Kay, Angela's work group because they're doing the audit too. So there's a lot of overlap out there. And having said that, Kay, Angela, and Jamie, I would like to be part of your work group too, the one that you're suggesting.
Sounds good. Thank you, Preeti. Okay, Dale.
Thank you so much, Kay. Are there any additional comments? I thought I saw a hand. Okay, I guess not. So I'll move along. Thank you so much, everyone. We have some additional topics that have come about, and I'll start. Paul mentioned an email that we sent to him earlier in the month, and his response regarding expiring terms for 1 year appointed board task force members, of which I'm a member. There are 5 members whose terms will expire on July 31st of this year. Myself, Kay, Jillian, Larry, and Elizabeth are all 1 year termers. I did send an email and inquire as to whether or not each individual wished to be reappointed. And once I received the information, I conveyed it to the town attorney so that the town is aware of who wishes to be reappointed and who will not be reappointed. In the interim, we also had an additional resignation of a 2-year appointed member, and that was Alan Gadsen. So Alan is no longer a member of the task force based upon his resignation. And I also believe I did advise Paul of that. So the town will be reappointing a member to fill Mr. Gadsen's appointment.
Dale?
Yes, Paul.
Alan is actually a 3-year term.
Oh, thank you for correcting that. I didn't write that in my notes. I relied on my memory. So thank you so much.
So the board will be looking at appointing or reappointing 6 people to 5 people for the 3-year term and someone to complete Alan's 3-year term.
Correct. And I do want to advise, I did advise Paul that two of the members that have expiring terms have indicated that they wish to be reappointed. I understand that generally it's the town's practice to reappoint individuals who wish to be reappointed. And there are two members who do not wish to be reappointed, and I have not heard from a third member as yet. Just so everyone is aware, at this point, Kay and Liz have indicated that they wish to be reappointed, and so we will await the town's decision. Jillian and I do not wish to be reappointed. And on a personal note, I'll just advise everyone that I've had another loss in my family this year, actually on April 21st. And it's a monumental family loss. So I'm not in a position to continue for another year. And that's my personal reason as to why I'm stating that I do not or cannot be reappointed. I have not heard from Larry as to what his wishes are at this point. And as soon as we hear from him, we will convey that to Paul. As it stands, that gives rise to an additional issue. As of July 31st, we will have to have additional members come into the task force. And I think at that point, we'll have to hold new elections for our leadership group. We will also have to amend our bylaws because the bylaws actually provide for leadership terms to expire at the end of June. And so that's sort of a perfunctory correction that we can do at the next meeting, but I'd like to bring that to the forefront of everyone's mind. So you know that we'll add that vote to the agenda and take a quick vote as to amending the bylaws to the correct date, July 31st, for expiration of officer terms. Also, anyone who's interested in a leadership position can start exchanging emails and indicating to other members that they wish to become a leadership member at any point. I think, and I would suggest that we wait until we have the new appointments before actually holding the actual election so that we're fully comprised. So those are the issues that I wanted to raise as additional topics. And I will now move towards comments, questions, etc. And I see that Jillian has her hands raised. Jillian?
Hi, Dale. I just first of all want to say I'm so sorry for your loss. I also want to tell everyone that I've loved everything I've done on this task force, and I've loved working with all of you. But seeing that I'm not a full-time Niskayuna resident, that is the reason why I think that it's important for me to step down and make room for people who are actually living in the community full-time that is being impacted. So, but I'm not gonna slow down. I'm gonna keep it up. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian. It's been a pleasure working with you also.
So Dale, Paul Briggs, to the task force members, I provided Dale today with a proposed posting for the town website for new members. And I would ask that Dale and the leadership committee or anybody else that wants to review that, do so. My timeline, because I'd like to have that posted by Monday. So it's also going to be circulated to the town board for their review and comments. It's pretty straightforward. It's requesting new memberships. I actually used much of your task force language in the membership application or membership announcement. And I included, the task force was kind enough about a month ago to provide me with some of the criteria that they thought was important and critical to a good working group. And I've included all of those items on the posting. So it'd be great if I could have that back at the end of business on Monday or sooner if that's the case. I think it's pretty straightforward. I'm pretty particular about my language, but I'm not adverse to anybody correcting, editing, whatever needs to be done. So it's the best document for all concerned to go out to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks,
I did
Paul.
receive your email shortly before the meeting, and I did forward it to the leadership group. Once I get some email feedback from them, I will then forward it to the general body. And now that you've given us a timeline, I'd just ask the leadership group to give me your feedback. Today is Wednesday. If we could expedite it and get some feedback by late Thursday so that I can send it out to everyone, or we can send it out to everyone by Friday morning so that they can digest it and provide any comments. And then we could probably, and then have a turnaround to Paul on Monday, if that's possible.
And the timing, now that I was corrected too about the end of the term, the timing is that the posting is going to request that any people that are interested in being members submit their paperwork to me by June 30th in anticipation of the town board making their appointments at the meeting at the end of July. That would then put in place the new members for your first August meeting, which would be the first meeting of the second year of your task force. So that's our timing. And that if I have all the applicants submit theirs to me by June 30th, that'll give the town board time to vet the potential new members and also likely seek input from everyone concerned so that we can pick the board can pick the best people to go forward.
Yes, Kay?
I'm sorry, Sandra had her hand before me. If she wanted to ask a question, I can wait.
I'm sorry, Sandra.
Okay, I'm just trying to get clarification. And maybe Paul addressed it. How are we addressing the people who are currently on the board who their time frame will expire at the 31st of July and they want to remain on the board? Is that going to be addressed in that email, or is that a separate item?
It won't be addressed in the posting, but the town board. So tomorrow morning I already dictated the email, and that's going out to the town board tomorrow morning to put them on notice of this process. But what happens is that the two members that want to remain on the task force would be included as part of the group that's being reviewed by the town board. So they don't need to separately reapply. They're existing board members on all boards, or if they express a desire to continue, they're automatically included as part of the town board's consideration for reappointment.
Okay, thank you. And just on a short note, I really have enjoyed the work that both Jillian and Dale have done. I really don't want you to go, but I understand, the need, and I'm sorry for your loss, Dale, but we have some really good people on this task force, and they're all very hardworking people. And so I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Liz? I'm
Same,
sorry.
Dale, it was a
Liz, I'm
pleasure to work
sorry.
with
I'm going to
you.
jump back to Kay because she,
Sorry.
she was going
Kay,
to
go
speak
ahead.
first.
That's okay. So my question is more like from a timing perspective. So Paul, if the determination of new members is being done around the end of July or mid of July, then I'm guessing we will probably have 1 or 2 meetings potentially without a chair, because Dale's term will expire on July 31st. So if we're not going to elect new leadership members until we have all members on board, I'm assuming that's at least an August and September meeting before we have a chair again. Or am I off charts on this?
Actually, Kay, that was a concern of mine. I was also going to raise that issue and maybe suggest to Paul that the town, at their June meeting, or the town's July meeting would probably be about a week before our July meeting. If I'm correct. And if that's the case, then maybe those members at the start of July, we'd have to do a quick interim early July meeting to discuss officers.
The problem with that, Dale, is that the term of the new members doesn't start till August 1st. So even if we accelerated the process, you would have new members that wouldn't have the authority to vote because they're not appointed members. Their term doesn't start until August 1st.
Is it possible that we could vote on an interim chair to bridge that gap? And then once new members are all in, et cetera, we might want to have a full vote?
I think that's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea. I also want to point out that our bylaws do provide that our vice chair could step into the shoes of the chair.
Oh, that's right.
If she or he chooses. So actually, Dr. Puccioni could take that interim chair on automatically during that month or so. It's actually probably going to be more of a 2-month period. We're looking at August to September, I think.
Well, I tell you what, I think that's an excellent idea, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel. If we already have that structure in place, then if Jamie is open to that, then she can step in and be our interim chair until we have votes in the fall.
That's if she can.
Oh, that's true.
So, I mean, we would have to really consider that. And I think what we should do is consider it and have a realistic discussion at the next meeting. At the leadership meeting, I think Jamie can let us know what her thoughts are on that. And if she's not able to step up in this instance, given all of the circumstances present, then we will move towards having an interim chair and having individuals who state that they're interested in being the chair actually run for that interim election. Thoughts? Sandra, I see your hand is still up. Is no comments.
I think that sounds reasonable, Dale. I think the timing being what it is, I don't think we have a lot of alternatives. I think as busy as Jamie is also, she'll want to consider this very carefully before moving forward. Not to speak for you, Jamie, but knowing how busy, very, very busy you are. So I think that's reasonable, Dale. I think all things considered, Dale, Jamie, Sandra, Jamie. Paul.
Well,
Thanks,
also,
David.
I'd like to make another comment. And again, Dale, please accept my sincere condolences on your loss.
Thank you.
And believe me, I know firsthand how devastating that can be. But I also want to state that I have enjoyed your steady leadership. I think you're an excellent leader. And I think you are the right person to lead us initially to this point. And I just want to thank you for your service. Like I've said this privately, and I'll say it publicly. I mean, I'm so impressed with you. I would follow you anywhere. I think you're a great leader.
Thank you so much, Doc.
Hear,
I
hear.
really appreciate your kind words. Thank you. David?
Just concurring with Doc, 100%. Here,
Oh,
here.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Are there any additional
Liz wants to
comments?
say something.
Yes, David?
Liz wants to say something.
Yes, Liz, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
This phone, it's a 6 o'clock, family check-in time. Sorry. Dale, sorry for your loss. And it was wonderful to work with you. It's like my sister. I can always reach out to you. And we'll really miss you, but you can always come back and join us when you're more comfortable.
Thank you, Liz. I thank you all. It's been my pleasure. We still have a couple months to go, so I'm holding on, and I thank you all. Are there any additional comments or issues that anyone wants to raise at this time?
Oh, one more, sorry.
Yes, Liz.
I'm the little kid in the group, sorry. Since Jillian won't be with our group, so I had to seek another co-chair for our work group, right? So I had to wait for the new membership fulfill, then we'll select one.
Yes.
Okay. Jillian, I will be missing you. You are wonderful. And I like all our conversations with you, all my excitements and sadness and crying times. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Liz. No, we'll definitely keep in touch. Don't worry. Like Dale said, we have a couple months, so you can't make me cry now.
Do I have a motion to close the meeting? To adjourn. Motion made by David. Anyone second the motion? Thank you,
I
Liz.
second.
And Kay and Angela. All in favor? Please say aye.
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 Thank you all.
Aye.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. And I
Welcome,
will see
Aya.
everyone June 9th, I believe. Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
night,
evening,
everyone.
everyone. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Bye. Take care.
Happy Mother's
Bye.
Day to all.
Bye.
Thank you, Liz. Same to you.